Welcome to the Explainer. Have you ever looked at a beautifully structured website and wondered how all that information stays so perfectly organized? Today, we're focusing on one of the most fundamental yet absolutely powerful tools in a web developer's toolkit, HTML lists. Okay, let's dive into this.
Here is exactly what we're covering today. First, bringing order to HTML. Second, unordered versus ordered lists. Third, the list item tag. And fourth, we'll wrap up by building a real-world skills section.
All right, Section 1, bringing order to HTML, and really why semantic structure matters.
I want you to imagine a web page without any structural tags. It would literally just be a massive, chaotic block of unformatted text. So how do you bring order to that chaos? How do you tell the browser what's a heading, what's a paragraph, and crucially for us today, what's a list of distinct items? Because without specific instructions, your browser just lumps the whole shebang together.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how we solve that problem. Take a look at this HTML5 cheat sheet from our sources. It maps out the core syntax for creating lists. You can clearly see the OL tag for numbered sequential lists, the UL tag for bullet points where the order doesn't matter, and the LI tag which specifies each individual item within those lists. We even have description lists down at the bottom. This syntax is basically the universal language we use to tell the browser, hey, group this information together logically.
When we use these specific list tags, we're utilizing what's called semantic HTML. Think of semantic tags as special labels. They don't just change how things look, they define what the content actually is. By using a semantic list tag instead of, just hitting the return key and typing a little dash, you're making your website accessible for screen readers, super readable for search engines, and logically structured for any other developers who might read your code down the line.
Moving on to Section 2, unordered versus ordered lists, and how to choose the right one for your content.
Let's compare these directly. On the left, we've got ordered lists, created with the OL tag. You're going to use these when sequence, preference, or priority absolutely matters. Think of a step-by-step recipe or instructions on how to install a new piece of software. If the order gets mixed up, the information loses its meaning, right? Now, on the right, we have unordered lists, created with the UL tag. These display as a bulleted list without any extra emphasis on priority. You use these when the items belong in a grouping, but the specific sequence doesn't change the meaning at all.
Our source material from Asabine's 30 Days of HTML puts this perfectly. We use unordered list if we do not interested in the order or hierarchy of the list. It's a really simple rule of thumb, but it immediately clarifies your decision-making process when writing HTML. Basically, if you can shuffle the items around like a deck of cards and the list still makes complete sense, you want an unordered list.
Let's look at some highly practical use cases for the unordered list, which, appropriately enough, are formatted right here as a bulleted list. You'd use a UL tag for your grocery items, listing Scandinavian countries, or grouping together your developer skills. But here's a really cool fact. Unordered lists are also the standard way to build website navigation menus. Those links at the very top of a web page? Behind the scenes, they're almost always just an unordered list of links, styled with CSS so they sit side by side. Pretty neat, right?
Okay, Section 3, the list item tag. These are the fundamental building blocks of your lists.
Meet the LI tag, which simply stands for list item. So the crucial point here is this parent-child relationship. The UL or OL tag acts as the parent container, wrapping the whole section. But every single distinct point you want to make inside that list has to be wrapped in its own opening and closing LI tags. The browser literally counts these LI tags to know exactly how many bullets or numbers to draw on the screen.
Plus, list items have a very specific built-in behavior. By default, LI elements act as block elements. This means that each list item automatically starts on a brand new line stretching across the available space. They just automatically stack up on top of each other. And this built-in behavior is awesome because it guarantees a clean, readable vertical visual hierarchy without you having to write a single line of extra CSS to force them onto new lines.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what we can actually put inside a list item. An LI tag isn't just for plain text, it's a container all on its own. Inside an LI tag, you can nest an A tag to create a hyperlink, which remember is exactly how those navigation menus are made. You can nest full paragraphs. You can even nest an entirely new ordered or unordered list inside a list item to create complex, multi-level outlines. The flexibility here is just immense.
And that brings us to Section 4, building a skills section, where we apply all this theory to a personal portfolio.
As Spruce Emmanuel notes in our source material from FreeCodeCamp, as a developer, having a portfolio is important. It's your personal space to showcase your skills, share projects, and impress potential employers. It's your digital resume, and the very first thing an employer wants to see is a clear, highly readable breakdown of your technical skills.
Let's move to and see how this builds step by step. Step 1. We create a semantic section container to designate this specific part of the web page. Step 2. Well, since a list of skills doesn't have a strict sequential hierarchy, knowing CSS isn't really step 2 of knowing HTML. We add an unordered list container, the UL tag. And finally, step 3, we populate that container with our individual skills, wrapping HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, each in their own LI list item tags.
When we zoom out, we can see how perfectly these list tags integrate into a modern, semantic HTML5 document. Your whole page content sits in a main wrapper. Inside that, you have a section with a unique ID of skills, which is fantastic for navigation links. Inside the section, you have a clear H2 heading introducing the content, followed immediately by your cleanly formatted unordered list of developer skills. It's accessible, it's readable, and it's totally structurally sound.
So we've gone from the theoretical chaos of unformatted text to a structured, semantic, and professional portfolio layout. The core HTML list tags, the unordered list, the ordered list, and the list item are absolutely the fundamental building blocks for organizing information on the web. So my final question for you is, how are you going to use these structural tags to build your digital presence? Are you going to organize your projects, structure a blog post, or maybe finally build out that portfolio? Take this unordered list of skills, start writing some HTML, and go launch your career. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.